Yeah, I'm well aware that like this news is like a day old, but I want to touch on an aspect that nobody is talking about and something that I think is important that we do talk about. So, if you aren't already aware, James Gunn announced yesterday the slate for part one or whatever section of chapter one the new DC Cinematic Universe is going to be producing, what projects are coming out. And I'll keep my opinion brief, but I think it looks like shit. It doesn't have my enthusiasm. Sure, there are some projects that I'm excited for, but for a majority of it, I just don't have any hope. It seems more like a preliminary sketch. But one thing that does seem to be constant throughout all the projects is that there seems to be a serious favoritism issue between with James Gunn and Peter Safran forming this new cinematic universe. So that's pretty much the premise of this video. I'm going to break it up into two parts. The first part is going to be more light, but the second part I think is going to be probably the most important and is the reason I made the video. But I think it's something that we need to all have a further discussion about because I think it is pretty scummy what some of the decisions they've made. But, you know, hey, that's just my 2 cents on it. But, yeah, on to the first part. So, if you guys aren't really well aware of James Gunn's kind of background, at least in the last 10 years, he's worked on a lot of comic book projects, and you notice a continuing thread through all of them. The Guardians movies, the Suicide Squad, and Peacemaker, they all use some really obscure characters, and not like obscure like, oh, Green Arrow can be considered obscure, oh, Ant-Man back in the day was obscure, Shazam is kind of an obscure character. Like, we're talking about obscureness to the point where comic book fans don't even know who some of these characters are. And we saw a lot of that in yesterday's slate, and you can just kind of tell that, like, that was a personal choice, right? We were given the impression from James Gunn and Peter Safran that this new DC Studios-led DC Cinematic Universe was going to concern itself really with cleaning house and giving us a fresh start. It's going to have a new Superman, supposedly maybe a new Batman, or incorporate Robert Pattinson's Batman, a new Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, which, again, we're keeping Jason Momoa as Aquaman, apparently. So we were expecting, like, you know, A and B lister heroes to finally get their chance in the spotlight. You know, obviously I'm recording this before The Flash comes out, before an actual trailer has really released. And we haven't really gotten a proper Flash movie. We haven't gotten a Cyborg movie. We have gotten a Green Lantern movie. We haven't gotten a Green Arrow movie, right? A lot of these characters that people love and people actually recognize and that could actually be profitable, they haven't had their time in the light, right? The fact that it took us until 2017 to get a Wonder Woman movie just baffles me. We haven't really gotten many Superman movies, and the only character that really gets the spotlight is Batman. But to have all these obscure like characters and licenses with Swamp Thing and the Authority both getting movies, look, I know there's a fan base for Swamp Thing, but to give him a movie as well as the Authority, which I can tell you nobody knows about, just seems a little weird. Then you look at the first project that he announced, which was Creature Commandos, an animated HBO Max spin-off show, which is also coincidentally being written by James Gunn. So it seems that they have a lot of hands in on a lot of these obscure projects, and I get that that's James Gunn's thing, but he was also chosen to work as a Kevin Feige type head for the new DC universe, right? And Kevin Feige never really had his hand in like directing or writing. He had an overall plan, right? We wanted to get to the Avengers, but he's a producer on pretty much all the movies. And I say pretty much, he is the producer on all the movies. Then, right, like you look at that, right, and you start to see that, oh, wait a second, right, they got mad at Zack Snyder for doing the same thing. Zack Snyder wrote and directed Man of Steel. Same thing for Batman vs. Superman. Same thing for Justice League, right? But he had too much of a hand in the DCEU, right? Who's to say that James Gunn also doesn't have too much of his hands in the DCU? I don't know, the thing just seems hypocritical, and I honest to God won't be surprised if a lot of these projects or acts are changed or just straight up canceled between now and the release of the new Superman movie, because that's the only one in this new cinematic universe that actually has a date. So, like I said at the beginning, this is going to be more serious, this section at least, because I think it's really fucking scummy what James Gunn and Peter Safran have decided to do, as well as the fact that this is probably, it's not probably, it is the reason that I decided to make this video instead of talking about my own real opinions about it, because I do think it looks like shit. I don't have any hope for this new cinematic universe, and especially after this, it really just rubs me the wrong way, and I think it should rub a lot of people the wrong way. So go back to Black Adam when Henry Cavill returned as Superman and came back and said, I'm going to be back as Superman. I'm currently talking to Warner Brothers Discovery and, the new DC staff and whatnot, and we're talking about having a new Superman movie, and I'm going to appear in more projects. Henry Cavill gets axed by James Gunn, all under the guise of, hey, this new cinematic universe that we're working on, we're going to be starting off with a fresh start. And again, me, who's someone who actually does like Henry Cavill, I like all the movies that he's been in. He's a good actor, and I really like him as Superman. It's just that, personally speaking, when it comes to Man of Steel, I think it's a good movie. I think Henry Cavill does very well on it. However, it's not the best Superman movie. And from the sounds of what the script, or at least the plans for the script of this new Superman movie, was supposed to be and is going to be with Superman Legacy, it seemed like it was going to really come in touch with the heart of the character and really be one of the best modern Superman movies we will ever get. At least I personally think that, and I still have the hope for the new Superman movie, but they axed him under the guise of them having a fresh start, and I understand that. I personally understand that, and I think the proper way to start over a new cinematic universe like this, especially for DC, is if you're going to have a fresh start, you need to reset everything. That means Zachary Levi, unfortunately, he can be recast, or not recast, but he can be brought back as Shazam, but he's going to have to start over. Same thing with Jason Momoa Aquaman, but it seems like those two continuities are going to continue. Yet we're going to axe Wonder Woman 3 and, Gal Gadot. I mean, I'm okay with it, but again, you see how, like, the favoritism is starting to be played here. Zachary Levi is going to be continuing to be Shazam, and Shazam's not the biggest heavy hitter when it comes to the box office. Jason Momoa is for Aquaman, which I understand, but a lot of fans really want Henry Cavill. I, for one, and I know some people are going to get mad at me saying this, but if they wanted to do a hard reset and wanted to either, one, incorporate the Batman universe, or two, pretty much say, we're done with that was an experiment, I personally would have been fine with that. It would have been a little upsetting to see the Batman universe kind of wasted. However, I wouldn't have minded if they had done a complete reset like they had promised, instead of pushing the shit that James Gunn wants, like I said previously, with all the obscure characters. Not to mention, the one project that I haven't really mentioned that doesn't fall between the obscure characters and just stuff I'm generally excited for, or stuff like I'm happy to see, is the Amanda Waller show. So it brings back Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, and the premise really of the show is, since James Gunn has all these new responsibilities being the head of DC Studios, Peacemaker Season 2 is going to be put on hold. However, Peacemaker's story and Team Peacemaker's story is going to continue through the Viola Davis-led Amanda Waller show that's going to be on HBO Max. Hold on. I thought we were starting over in a new continuity. I know a lot of people consider the Suicide Squad to be a soft reboot, and I, for one, at first thought that. But then when we go to Peacemaker and the end of Peacemaker, where the Justice League shows up, when we see the DCEU incarnations of Wonder Woman and Superman, even though we don't see their faces, and we see Jason Momoa Aquaman and Ezra Miller Flash, you sit there and go, wait a second, is this part of the DCEU? Is this part of the, Forsaken Snyderverse? No, it's still kind of part of the DCEU, and here's the solidifying part, which is the biggest kick in the balls, because I think Henry Cavill really loves what he does, and really does it because he's a fan. He appeared in Black Adam, right? And in that end credit scene, Viola Davis's Amanda Waller shows up in Black Adam, in the end credit scene. Not to mention that Hardcore, from the Peacemaker show, makes a quick cameo in Black Adam, where Henry Cavill Superman shows up. So you're telling me that that's not part of the DCEU, right? But we're bringing back, presumably, the Suicide Squad. You'd have to bring back the Suicide Squad continuity, as well, obviously, the Peacemaker continuity, into this new continuity, which is well vested in the DCEU. It's not like a cameo here and there. It's like, these were pretty much connected. Like, I get how disjointed the DCEU's been the last few years, but over the last few projects, over the last, 2 years, they've been trying to connect things. And that's something that really pisses me off, because James Gunn made both of those projects. He wrote and directed the Suicide Squad, and he wrote most of Peacemaker, and directed a few episodes of Peacemaker. He had his hand in it. Right? Not to mention that I wasn't really a fan of Peacemaker because it was a big middle finger to the fans when they brought up identity politics, which was every fucking episode. Look, when it was good, but when it brought up the identity politics, it made me want to fucking turn it off. I'm not excited for a Peacemaker season 2, which they pretty much just kind of confirmed is going to happen and exist in this new DC cinematic universe, which we were all okay with Henry Cavill getting axed, well, maybe not all of us, because it was going to be a fresh start. Rules for thee, not for me. You can't have your fucking cake and eat it too. That's what pisses me off the most about it. I think it should piss off a lot of people, right? I don't really talk about the comic stuff that much. I don't really talk about really anything on the channel that much anymore. Like, Ben Affleck, personally, the reason that we're not getting the Batfleck movie, or that hasn't been Batman, is because of Ben Affleck, right? And when people say, release the Batfleck movie, fuck Warner Brothers for that, that's where I disagree with them. But when we talk about Henry Cavill and his Superman, who I believe has gotten better and better after each time he's played the character, I think he's gotten fucked over at every level. And that's really fucking upsetting, right? To me, right, that's just such a scummy thing to do and such a kick in the balls. Either reset everything, or a majority of the stuff. If you want to work with two Batman, I don't think people would be that upset. I know I'm a little weary about it, but they were going to do it last year with the Flash movie and the Batman. There's going to be 3 on-screen Batmen, which, whatever. But when you sit there and say, no, we're going to reset, we want a younger Superman, and we also kind of want to have him spearhead this new cinematic universe that we're pretty much hitting the reset button on. No, you're fucking not. You're bringing in your own fucking projects because you want them in there, right? I'm sorry. You need to decanonize that stuff, and the Amanda Waller show can't happen. Only way it can happen is if it exists within this new DC cinematic universe and they're setting up something completely new. But this is a direct tie-in to Peacemaker. So either reset it all or keep the current continuity and just keep doing what you're doing. And to be honest with you, I don't mind DC keeping on what they're doing. Just make good movies, make good shows, I guess. But I'm sorry, that's the thing that kind of turns me off from this whole universe. It's just such a fucking stab in the back to the fans, because no one really wants the Authority movie. No one wants the Creature Commando shit. No one wants the third one that I just can't remember the name of. The Swamp Thing movie, people are probably hit or miss with that, right? The main stuff that we're getting is like the good stuff, like the Superman movie, the Supergirl movie, the Batman movie, the Green Lantern and Booster Gold shows. That's stuff people want. But your obscure shit is stuff you want, James Gunn. And you backstabbing Henry Cavill, it's not, oh, well, we were just trying to reset everything and it's better if we start on a fresh slate. No, it's, hey, we didn't really want Henry Cavill there, but we're going to keep our stuff because even though he did kind of cross over with our characters, right, fuck him. Like, that's really what that is. And that's the thing that pisses me off the most, and what really shows the favoritism and really just kind of takes me back from what they're doing here. I hope, honestly, that things get a bit better with this, but as far as the new slate, it doesn't have my support, and I'm not really looking forward to it. But then again, that's just my 2 cents. I just wanted to get my opinion out there because I think it's important, and I know there's a really long section, but I hope a lot of you can understand where I'm coming from. Maybe some of you agree, but you know, it is what it is.